We interrupt our regularly scheduled programming for breaking news. This is the Apple and Orange Line channel, Breaking News Headquarters Center. We have breaking news just being handed to me now. Dateline, January 18th, 2022. Lionel trains have always been expensive. More breaking news being handed to me. Dateline, January 18th, 2022. Lionel trains are still expensive. And more breaking news coming in. January 18th, 2022, just off the wire, Lionel trains will probably always be expensive. Stay tuned to the Apple and Orange Line channel, Breaking News Headquarters, for details and information as this story develops. We will update you and break in when news breaks. We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Apple and Orange Line channel and to another special episode of the Apple and Orange Line. Today we're going to talk about the new 2022 Lionel Catalog. And I think I've already addressed the elephant in the room, the prices. I've read a lot of comments on OGR forums and watched other YouTube videos on the new catalog, and there's a consistent theme. One, there's no printed catalog being sent out, and two, there's high prices. So big surprise. The fact is, Lionels have always been expensive. They're really no more expensive now than they ever have been, adjusted for inflation and all that. There's a couple factors going on in the industry and in the world. One is there's a little less competition than there used to be. MTH was very good for Lionel. Competition is good for everybody. It makes everybody produce better products at better prices and all that. But so a major competitor, probably a major thorn in the side of Lionel, has been removed. There's just there's been taken over partly by Lionel and partly by others, and partly is remaining with some employees. But either way, the major force of MTH is gone, so Lionel now has less competition. They've generally, over most of their history, had not a lot of competition in O-gauge anyway. There's other competition, certainly other toys and hobbies and things that people are interested in, and then there's the option of HO and N and Z and all that. If you want a cheaper, less expensive train, you can get into HO, or you can go you can go buy your stuff at Maynard's and from other suppliers. And the great thing about Lionel, though, is it's still a manufacturer-dealer model where dealers decide how much they're going to charge for the items. The retail price for a new fancy locomotive might be over $2,000, but that doesn't mean the dealers will be able to charge that. And you're still the customer and the consumer driving the ship here, driving the train. So you can go into your local dealer and you can say, hey, the guy in New York has it for $12.99 or whatever it is. So match it, or I'll order it online. And your local dealer hopefully will work with you, and they may be a little bit more expensive than some of the big players, but you won't be paying for shipping, and if you have a problem, you can take it into your dealer for the most part. Now Lionel's changed that a little bit, but your dealer will still help you, and they should make it right if there's a problem, and so you can haggle with your local dealer. So there's that. But the thing with pricing is, I'll show you here in just a moment, the pricing is pretty much the same as it always was. I haven't actually bought any new trains, so I'm coming to this from a perspective of somebody who has been away from the hobby for a long time. I've gone into hobby stores in the last 35 years, and I've poked around and looked at the internet and looked at some of the big dealers, and I've looked at I've bounced around the OGR forums for probably 10 years, and I've watched some of the YouTubers that are now pretty big when they were just starting out, and so I've kind of kept my eye on the hobby, but I haven't actually messed around with my trains until just recently. And so I pulled out all of my old MPC era trains, and I'll show you in just a moment some of the price tags on some of my items, and we'll compare them to today's prices, adjusted for inflation. So the other thing that's going on, of course, there's massive inflation going on right now, and and then there's supply chain problems all over the world, and even things that have where they've assembled all the parts, if they can get all the parts, they put all the parts together in Asia, and then they ship that stuff over to the United States, and that stuff's sitting out on ships parked out in the middle of the ocean somewhere, or offshore, off LA or somewhere, waiting to come in. So there's other factors at play that are really unusual. Of course, the pandemic and all that is part of it, but there's other stupidity involved too. But the fact is, the prices right now that are published in this new catalog aren't really too much different. There's much better quality, higher end options in there, like the Vision line and all that kind of stuff. That's that stuff wasn't available when I was a kid. So that's a big difference too. But so what I'm going to do with this video is I'll just kind of show you the pricing. I pulled out some of my old stuff that I have prices on. Unfortunately, I think my mom, when I got things as presents, my mom always would she'd always take like a letter opener or like a file or something, and she'd peel those stickers off the price tags. So some of my items have a little sticky spot where there was a little dirty sticky spot where there was a price tag on it at one time. But I did find some price tags, and I'll share them with you now and show you the difference of back in the late 70s when I was a kid getting into Lionel. Some of the prices, and then somewhere in my later youth, in my teens, I just didn't really buy any more trains. I spent my money on movies and other stuff, so I didn't spend my money on trains as much. So there was a point where I just kind of didn't buy more trains. I still ran my trains and always enjoyed them, and it was something my dad and I had together. We it was kind of our deal, and we always talked about them. And he would get them out over the years. He kept them stored at my parents' house, and so he would go through my trains, but we always talked about them. But so just recently I've been going through them and getting back into it, and I'm planning to build a new layout, and I do want to get into the new stuff. I'm interested in the new technology that I know nothing about, and so just keep that in mind. And in my view of this new catalog, I'm coming from maybe a different I'm a time traveler. I'm coming from a different place from the old days, and we didn't have the digital controls and all that stuff. So I'm really interested in that and the new thing that they've got. So but first, let's talk about the pricing, and let's just look at old prices and current prices and see where we're at. First, let's look at a couple of the train sets I had when I was a kid. These are MPC era late 70s box train sets. The first one is the Milwaukee Special Passenger train. Probably not the highest end box set. So the hobby store's price was $139.95. That probably wasn't the retail or list price from Lionel, but that's what they sold it for. So let's look at that in today's dollars. Let's say 1978 to today. So I just punched that into Google, and $140 in 1978 is $598.65 today. The Lion Chief Polar Express is probably the most comparable similar set available today. So the Lion Chief Polar Express, which is a specialty train based on a popular movie, comes in at $449.99, and that's the retail price. So that's actually less than the inflation-adjusted price for the old set. And we didn't have a disappearing hobo back in the 1970s. But I think the passenger cars are exactly the same. Mr. Muffin has the catalog price inflated to $4.99, and they're selling it on sale at the catalog price of $4.49. Train World has the same set available today with the same product number for $339. Today you can buy 2 steam trains for the same price as 1978. Now let's take a look at the Lionel New York Central Empire State Express box set that I got. This is my first train set. I believe it was Christmas 1976. And this did not come with track or transformer. This set was sold by a large retail department store called Frederick and Nelson in downtown Seattle, and it was $275. And once again, that may or may not have been the retail price or the list price according to Lionel, but that's what it sold for. So I punched $275 into Google, and today that would be $1,176. The closest set I can find in the new catalog is the Pennsylvania S2 Lion Chief Plus 2.0 set. And that set comes in at $749.99. Now, I would argue that my Hudson steam engine is nicer than the current Lion Chief model, so let's just take a look at a couple legacy models. There's no steam engine. But there are two diesel sets that come in at $10.99 and $12.99, which is pretty close to $1976. Now let's take a look at a 1970s era steam train passenger car. This sold at my local small town hobby store for $18, which equals about $77 today. The same car today, sold as a Polar Express, sells for $85 retail. And Train World has the same car in stock today for $70. Next we have an old classic, the Northern Pacific flat car with piggyback trailers. So back in the day, that sold for $8.90, which I'm thinking was a pretty good deal. Because $8.90 in the 70s is about $38 today. So that was probably a pretty good deal back in the day. The closest one I could find in the new catalog is a Chevrolet Specialty set at $94.99. So I don't know if that's really apples to apples. It's more of an apples to orange comparison. And today you can pre-order this on sale for $77.89 at Mr. Muffin's. So next up we have a Spirit of 76 boxcar, and this was actually purchased in 1977 for $13.50. Although 1977 was long before Google was ever thought of, probably before the founders of Google were born, but $13.50 in 1977 is about $62 in today's dollars. So the 2022 catalog has a 1776 boxcar, but this is way cooler, and it's $120, but it's much cooler. It has LED lighted flag and gold trucks, and it's probably a much nicer car than this 1776 car was. At the same time, there was a 1776 Spirit of 76 caboose in 1977. That was $11.45, and today that would be worth about $53. And so this year they have two specialty cabooses. One is a Polar Express and one is a Mickey Mouse Disney caboose that are $89.99, which is pretty good considering those are list prices versus retailer prices. And finally we have a classic MPC era Lionel Grand Trunk boxcar. And it looks like back in the day it was marked down from $14.50 to $8 on sale. And so in today's dollars that would be about $66. And today you can buy standard boxcars all day long at full retail for under $50. And of course today we have other options for lower priced rolling stock. Okay, so yes, I wish the prices were lower. I think I had sticker shock when I first looked at the catalog over the weekend. I was like, wow, these trains are really expensive. But when you really look at it, they've always been expensive. I mean, when I was a kid, I remember looking at trains or just a boxcar or something, and I was like, wow, it's a lot of money. And they were always like 30 to 50% higher than what I thought they should be. And that was the prices in the store. Not I didn't really pay attention to the Lionel catalog list prices, but anyway, it's there's another side to it, and it's different than buying milk or gasoline or something where you're shopping a commodity and trying to get the lowest price. It's it's a special thing, and we're all in this hobby because we like it, and we do make emotional buying decisions in buying trains and accessories and building layouts and all that. And I'm going through that right now, where I was just going to take everything I had and I was going to build a layout with what I had and just kind of start there and go from there. But now I'm thinking about bigger, wilder ideas. So that's it's the fun of it too. So it's okay to spend more than you planned on a train. It's fun, and the other thing is they last forever. They're well built. There is quality to Lionel's products, and you can't say that about everything. So and I don't know about Maynard's track or a Maynard's car or one of their accessories. I don't know if they'll last 3 weeks or 3 decades, but I know Lionel lasts more than 3 decades, so I can prove that. But don't be afraid to haggle with the dealer. Go into your dealer, talk to them, get to know them, and be friendly with them, and they'll help you out. And be willing to offer cash. Pull out a big wad of cash and say, I'd like to take that car right there, and I'll give you, $35 or whatever it is, for it, and not $49.99. So it's certainly worth the shot, and I'm sure the dealer would love to have the chance to earn your business as well. And if one dealer doesn't, go to another. Go call around, go online, shop around, and let your local dealer know that, hey, I can get this thing, same exact thing online for 30% less, and maybe you can meet each other at the point where the shipping and the convenience of taking it home right now meets the lower price of the online internet sales price. So the prices are high. I'm not gonna kid around about it, but they're really, historically, they're pretty much right in line, and some things are probably better deals in some ways for a better quality product. Comparing my New York Central Hudson locomotive to one of the new ones in the Lion Chief lineup, I don't know. The new ones do some things that mine won't do. And mine is a really heavy duty, really well built, solid locomotive, and I love it, and I'm never getting rid of it. But so there's a little bit of both sides to that. But they're expensive, but they're cool too. For $2,200 for a locomotive, that's a lot of money. You could buy a reliable old Honda or something and get yourself back and forth to college or something in a vehicle. So it's I don't know, it's a lot of money, but if you enjoy it, it can bring you decades of joy, and you can pass it on to your children. I have my dad's American Flyer electric train from the early 1930s. So these things are they're heirlooms, and they're really cool. So leave me a comment down below and let me know if you're pre-ordering any items out of the catalog, or if you're waiting for items to come out and wait and see what they're like, or if you've done a video or a YouTube or anything on the catalog and what you're looking forward to. Leave a link down below. I'd like to see what other people are interested in. And I thought I would just kind of share my perspective of the catalog. And this will be kind of quick, I think. So let's take a look. Okay, so the Lionel Base 3 is a new product that kind of brings together the other technologies, TMCC and Legacy, and I know nothing about any of that. So I'm pretty excited about this, as I think it will get me off to a good start with my new layout. And I think the same goes for the Cab 3 app. I would probably rather have a remote control, but this is a good start. And as I learn, I can add the remotes and the other systems later. So I've never had a switcher, and I have my eye on this Burlington Northern, as it has a local connection for me. Going into this catalog, I would have thought I would focus on steam engines, but these diesels are jumping out at me. The BNSF and the BC Rail. BNSF runs in my area in the Pacific Northwest, and my mom's from BC. These just look cool, and I'd like to get something in legacy just to get started. Or maybe I'll start out with this Burlington Northern SD40, because that looks pretty cool too. Well, these SD90s are pretty cool looking too, the Canadian Pacific, and my grandfather was in the Canadian Army in World War II, so they have a certain appeal. They're tugging at my heartstrings. These stacked containers are pretty cool. $170! Like I said earlier, you can buy these boxcars and even these gondolas all day long for under $50 full price retail. Not too shabby. I could see some of those Burlington Northern, and I always thought the rail box was really cool. I could see those on my layout. I could be persuaded to get a Coors Light or a Miller Lite or a Bud Light, but they don't have them. I think I will get a Miller in honor of my dad, because that was the only beer he ever drank, and he didn't drink beer very often, but that was the only one he would ever have. And when he was in the Navy, he was under 18, and he walked into a tavern to use the phone, and he had like a nickel on him. It was just enough to make a phone call. And the bartender said, "What do you have, sailor?" And he said, "Oh, no, I'm just here. I just need to use the phone real quick." And the bartender said, "Oh, BS, here." And he poured him a Miller off the tap. And that's the only beer my dad ever drank the rest of his life, and we served it at his wake. This 1776 could go pretty nicely with my old 1776. I would like to get a Polar Express to go around my Christmas tree in the future, and I've become a big fan of the movie. As we discussed earlier, $449 is a pretty reasonable price for this train set. And the disappearing hobo is just too cool. With the fire and everything, that's really cool. I love the Christmas season so much I could be persuaded to get more than one Christmas train. Maybe I'll end up with 3 Christmas trains. As we discussed earlier, you really can't put a price on the joy and the memories created by a Lionel train. Hey, so thanks again for tuning in to this special edition of the Apple and Orange line and the 2022 Lionel Catalog review. I hope you've enjoyed this and my take on the catalog and the prices in the catalog. You know, I wish they were lower, but really they're, for the most part, they're in line with history. And you know, Lionels have never been cheap, and they're probably never going to be cheap, and that's okay. That's part of the reason we like them. They're high quality items. They last forever. They're built tough, and they'll withstand childhood and adulthood. And you can pass them down to your grandchildren, and they can probably pass them down to their grandchildren as well. So they're a quality item, and they're special. They're not just a commodity. They're a special thing, and we each like them for our own reasons. But they're cool, you know, and you can't put a price on that. You can't really put a price on cool. Some of it is certainly higher technology. In the like, even in the Lion Chief line, there's just they do more than they used to, so it's cool, and I look forward to getting more into them. Obviously, I don't own any right now. I do look forward to getting into some Legacy and some the Lion Chief, and you know, some of the basic stuff too, and just learning more about them and building my new layout, and then figuring out where to go from there. So stay tuned on the Apple and Orange line here, as I will be releasing about a dozen more MPC era videos, and I've got a bunch of my Off the Rails series going on location to real operating railroads and historical railroad sites and things like that, mostly in the Pacific Northwest, but throughout the year it will be all over the country and maybe all over the world if things go well. I've got a whole bunch of those already shot and filmed. I just need to edit them and post them. As I move and get settled, I'll be building a new layout, documenting that right here on the Apple and Orange line. Thanks again for tuning in on this special episode of the Apple and Orange. We'll see you soon. If you enjoyed this content, please consider smashing the like button and subscribing to the Apple and Orange line. And as always, you may leave me a comment on any of the content in this video. I'd be happy to hear from you. Thanks again for tuning in to the Apple and Orange line.